Jimmy Cordero and his suspension for violating Major League Baseball's domestic violence policy. You know, guys, he's the third Yankee since 2016 to be suspended under Major League Baseball's domestic violence policy. It was Domingo Germán in 2020, and then Aroldis Chapman in 2016. And you know, he was a big piece of the Yankees bullpen, but you know, this just goes so far beyond that, and it's just a really tough situation in the Bronx.
It's sad because, again, I know this is the cliche, what, you know, cookie cutter, but we look up to these guys. I mean, it's that simple. I'm starting to get to the point where, you know, I'm not a little kid anymore. They're not these immortal idols in my eyes anymore. I still look up to them. You know, there are entertainers. They're the greatest athletes in the world, and I understand that they're human too, and they make mistakes. But, you know, when we sort of, as fans of certain teams, we represent our teams, and they're kind of a reflection of us. You know what I mean? We you know, I've always been in the tri-state, so I've always you know, it's heavily Yankee territory. People would always, a lot of my friends would know me as the Red Sox fan or this, that, and the other. You know, we become one with our teams. You know, us diehard sports fans, and it's hard. These athletes mean a lot to us. You know, watching them, and it's upsetting because, you know, especially for a fan base as devoted as the Yankee fandom is, you know, it's really, really tough to see them go through this same song and dance for now a third pitcher, just a member of their pitching staff alone. It's their third time experiencing this sort of misconduct.
I mean, Jimmy Cordero, obviously scumbag, like Chapman and Germán together, like inexcusable actions require like swift and an absolute justice, and I think that at least rest of the season stuff for Cordero. But from the on-field perspective, considering the fact that the Yankees are not even close to where they want to be or where they expected to be, this is another drop in the bucket that is Yankees' disappointment in the 2023 MLB season.
And I mean, it's also the other reason it's backbreaking is because, you know, these sort of issues bleed into team affairs. These guys are gonna start getting questions about this, and they don't need to. It's anytime that these big time, you know, I'm not trying to put this on the same magnitude as like other, because even though again this is horrible, it's honestly, I'm surprised how below the radar it's kind of stayed. I don't think it's been insanely publicized, but this bleeds into the clubhouse. These guys, Volpe's going to get asked questions about it. You know, any random Yankee that really has not only nothing to do with Cordero because they're not a pitcher, but also nothing to do with Cordero because they're good people and don't put their hands on others. These have ripple effects far deeper than just the suspension loss.
And I think the other sad thing is that if you go back and look at you know, the list of players who've been suspended under Major League Baseball's domestic violence policy, there's been at least one every year since 2016, like league-wide. At least one player has been suspended for domestic violence. So to me, that sort of signifies a systemic problem about something wrong with Major League Baseball that these guys sort of think that this kind of behavior is something that's acceptable.
It's a problem with professional sports. I mean, everyone's heard it. It was a back-breaking problem in the NFL. I mean, just it felt like every other day we were hearing something come out about an NFL player. But what I'm most curious about with this scenario, particularly for the Yankees, is where to move forward from this, because this is now, let's lay this out. This is now the third pitcher that you've had commit some sort of, you know, action like this, violate this policy. You had the Chapman one that looked arguably worse than this one because they signed Chapman after knowing about everything that happened. And then you have Domingo Germán, who honestly, as much as he makes my skin crawl for his actions, I think handled it, I won't go as far as saying correctly, but I think it was acceptable the way he handled it. I think he remained decently quiet. He didn't say any stupid things, and I don't think he made any additional liability for his teammates, and then, hey, just went out and threw a perfect game. But the interesting thing with Germán is that's someone who started in the Yankees organization and sort of grew up through it and blossomed into where he is today with the New York Yankees. With Cordero, you don't owe him a thing. Like, truthfully, if we're looking like long, like, these guys are all awful in their own ways. Like, I'm not, but I'm gonna be completely honest with you. I could see way more of a case for standing up for your, at least properly guiding Germán, who is a homegrown Yankee who you put all the cards on the table for, and a newer acquisition who hasn't had as much time in the organization and has already costed the team, has already costed the team concentration on the task at hand, and is now about to serve a suspension that takes him out the rest of the season.
Lou, what do you think back there?
Yeah, you guys know I'm a Yankee fan. I just wanted to share my thoughts real quick. I really want to see the Yankees make a statement here because, as you said, this is the third guy, and I think when you look back at the previous two cases, like Jack, you said they signed Chapman after. They didn't just sign him. The reason they were able to get him was because of the domestic violence incident. That's how they were able to trade for him at almost, like, they gave up nothing to get him.
Yep.
And it was, I think, 3 weeks after the incident came out that's when they acquired Chapman. With Domingo, you're right. I think as an organization, you have a responsibility when you're developing young players in your system to develop them as people too, right? That's part of developing prospects is you have to develop their character. So to a certain extent, I can see hanging with Domingo, and to his credit, right, he's been extremely apologetic, and to all of our knowledge, he's committed himself to reforming, and even then, it took him a long time to earn the trust of the clubhouse, where Zach Britton, who was like one of the captains of that clubhouse, said that you can't pick and choose your teammates. And he said that after the Domingo stuff came out, he said that to the media. For Jimmy Cordero, who, as you said, has no ties to this Yankee system, make a statement, guys, because this is, as you said, this is now 3 guys that have had this issue. You can't let this stuff go on. You can't show that you think that this is okay. You have to make a statement. They won't be able to until the offseason, but I would be really disgusted if they brought him back after what we've learned.
And Lou, you make a great point, and I don't want to sound like I'm coming down too harsh on the Yankees right now, because again, you could point out some sort of bias with my team allegiances, but we're talking about ethics here. We're talking about actual treatment of other humans and right and wrong. And the other reason, Lou, I think you're absolutely right about the absolute necessity for a big time statement. They already did their whole PR statement. The Yankees are fully supportive of Major League Baseball's investigative process and the disciplinary action, yada yada. I'm reading it right here. It's we've all seen it. It's the typical thank you for flying Southwest Airlines garbage. We need a real statement, because I'm going to tell you one other thing. After now seeing this be the third pitcher in a Yankee uniform who has done this, and like Lou mentioned, the reason they were able to sign Chapman in the first place was because of the violation of this rule. If this is not handled swiftly and the right accountability isn't taken, I will be absolutely sick of seeing the Yankees propped up as this classy franchise that they prop themselves up to be. And I'm of the belief that they are classy. They're the greatest franchise in baseball. They've won the most World Series. All their team just bleeds history. It bleeds baseball history. As much as it pains me to say that, they're the granddaddy of them all. So if we're gonna be this classy New York Yankees ball club where everything's written in cursive and everything is classy, and we're the old time, no beards, no this, and we're gonna be these old time Yankees that have been there since the start and are a pivotal franchise in not just baseball but American sports, then they're going to need to do better than this. They're going to need to do way, way better than this.
And I think it's easy to say that, like, this isn't a Yankee thing, which I think it's true to an extent. It might not. It could be a total coincidence that these guys happen to play for the New York Yankees, but they still play for the New York Yankees, and it's happened 3 times. So no matter if you think the Yankees are at fault, you have a responsibility as an organization to genuinely take a stand.